Hi friends, welcome to Programming Made Easy. This is Santosh Avalamurthy. So from today I'm starting a brand new series called SQL, Structured Query Language. So many of you are developers and testers, or even architects. So it is very important for those who are in the software development field to know about SQL because this is a language which is used to interact with the database. So many times I have seen many people or many young developers and testers they struggle to write the queries. Always we cannot depend on a DBA or a senior person to write the queries. So this is my effort to teach you on SQL so that you will be able to write most of the simple queries which you need in your day-to-day activities. I hope we all enjoy this series and also I request all your support to make this series a successful one. So in this series, I am not going to teach on writing the procedures or the advanced concepts related to databases. It will be mostly focused on writing simple queries which will help you to improve your software development activities. So with that introduction, let us get started. So those who are not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to the channel to get the notifications and do watch my videos, comment them, like them, and also share with all your friends. Now let's get started. So what is SQL? SQL stands for Structured Query Language. It is used for storing, manipulating, and retrieving data in databases. So as I told, the SQL is a language which is mainly available to talk to the database. So using SQL, we can do many things. Some of the important things are to create new databases, tables, stored procedures, views, etc. Set permissions on tables, procedures, and views. For example, if you want to give permission either to insert the data or view the data, modify or delete the data, it's all based on permissions. So if you want to give specific users to have the permission to insert and modify data, and some of your users may need only view permission, especially when you are doing the integration and when you want to expose your table or view to the third party applications, then it is always better to give read only access to such tables or views. Okay, so that they will not be able to modify any data, but they can only read the data and they can do any smooth integration with your application. We can insert records, update records, delete records, and retrieve data mainly in the form of select queries, right? So if we talk about what are the important commands that each one of you should be aware of. So there are four important commands. One is insert, which is used to insert the data to the tables. Update, to update the data in the table. Now, I'm sure all of you are aware of what a table is. So, if you are not aware, so a database, the traditional RDBMS, that is the relational database, what we mostly deal with, right? Could be your Oracle database or Microsoft SQL Server, Postgres, MySQL, right? So there are many relational databases. The way they store the data within a database, you will have tables, right? You can create the tables, and these tables store the data in the table format. So a table is nothing but a row and column. So you can have n number of columns and n number of rows. So each row is called as a record. Okay, so there is table, there are rows and columns, and each row is called as a record, which contains n number of columns as defined by your table creation script. Once you have the table, then first thing is to insert the data, where you can insert the records to the table. So whenever something changes in any of those columns, then we call update command to update the data in specific columns of a particular row. Okay. For example, so you can take employee as a database, and employee database will have different tables. So I'll be explaining what database I'll be considering, where it will become very clear for you what the table is, what is a column, all those things, right? Now, once we insert the data, then whenever you want to update specific columns, then we go for update statement. Select is the most commonly used command, which is used to select the data present in one or more tables. So you can select the data from a single table, or you can select data from multiple tables at once. And lastly, delete, which can be used to delete the records in your database. So this is the database structure I'll be using to demonstrate these commands. So we will be mainly focusing on 4 commands in this particular series. First, I will start with select, because that is the most commonly used command which everybody should be aware of, right? Then we will look into inserting the data, then updating the data, and finally deleting the data. So as I told, this is the employees database which I'll be using. For the simplicity, I have considered only 4 tables. So if required during the course of the series, we will include additional tables if required. So for some reason with the version of SQL Server Studio, I was not able to generate the year diagram, which is entity relationship diagram. Normally that is the diagram which is used to explain the structure of a database. So here I have made a slide with the important tables and the fields. Okay. So as I told, currently we are using only 4 tables. First is the department table, which is having department ID and department name. So the color code is explained here. Yellow color indicates a primary key. Now what is the primary key and all, we will see in the upcoming sessions. Okay. Then department name is a unique key. That means no 2 departments can have the same name. That is the meaning of unique. And similarly, there is a designation table where we have designation ID and designation name. And we have the employee table where we have the employee ID, then department ID and the designation ID. Now, if this designation ID refers to this designation ID of the designation table, We call such fields as a foreign key. Means these are the primary keys or the fields which we refer to, which are from the other table. There is a relationship. So in this particular case, what happens when you have a foreign key, unless you delete all the employees belonging to a particular department, you will not be able to delete the department table. So that is the meaning of foreign keys. So similarly, the department ID refers to this department ID of the department table. Designation ID refers to the designation ID of the designation table. Then I have salary table where I have employee ID and the record ID. Record ID is the primary key, employee ID is the foreign key which refers to the employee ID of the employee table. So quickly we will see the create table script, how all these fields are present in the database. So this is the create table script. So throughout the session or throughout the series, I'll be using predominantly MS SQL database, that is Microsoft SQL database, and I will be using SQL Server Management Studio, which is provided by the MS SQL Microsoft, right? And whenever there is a difference, I'll be comparing with the Postgres database also. So whenever there is changes in particular commands, then I will be referring to as per Postgres also. So some of the queries I may even use Postgres uh, editor. Other than that, mostly I will be using SSMS, right? So this is my department table, department ID, department name. So you can see here, this is defined as unique. Department name is unique and department ID is the primary key. Now just let me quickly tell you, primary key is the field within a table which contains only the unique value. It cannot be repeated, primary key, and also it cannot be null. Okay, now the difference between primary key and unique key is that unique can be null, but no other two rows should have the same value in the unique key. But in case of primary key, no two rows will have the same value, and also null is not allowed in case of a primary key. This is my designation table, designation ID, designation name. So numeric indicates it's a number field. Varchar indicates it is a character or a string. And here this indicates the size. 10 means you can have up to 9 and 10 nines of departments. So normally we don't need 10 digits, 2 is sufficient, but just for sample purpose I have created. So then the designation table, designation ID, designation name. Here designation ID is the primary key, designation name is unique key. Then this is my employee table. So employee ID, which is a numeric field. Then I have first name, middle name, last name. These are all string variables. Then I have date of birth, which is a number field. So we'll be storing the date of birth as Unix date and time, which is a 10-digit value. Then there is a date of join, which is again Unix date time field. It will store the date in terms of Unix date format. Married, it's one field, one digit value. Now since it is either 0 or 1, so 1 is sufficient. Then department ID, then designation ID. So as I told, these two are foreign keys which references to the department table. Department ID refers to department ID column of department table. Designation ID refers to designation ID column of the designation table. right? Then finally we have the salary table where I have a record ID, which is a numeric, then employee ID, month ID, since there are only 12 months, 2 digit is sufficient. Year, it's 4 digit. F salary, it's a float value because the salary can contain the decimal, so it is declared as a float value. Then here record ID is the primary key, employee ID is the foreign key which refers to employee ID field of the employee table. And what is unique, what has to be unique here is the combination of employee ID, month ID, and year. Because in a month, the employee is going to get only one salary, but one employee can get salary of multiple months, right? Or even multiple years, same month. So that is why these three combinations should be unique. Okay, so this is how the tables are defined. Okay, so with this we will stop the session now, and in the next session I will start with the select queries, which is very important for any software person who is dealing with the databases. So I hope this is a good kickstart for us. So if you are not subscribed to the channel, do subscribe to the channel. So if you like the video, do like it, share it with your friends and colleagues, and also comment on the video what has to be covered, or whatever is a positive or negative comments, do comment in my video. So thank you so much for watching. I'll be shortly back with the next video of the series, that is on select query. Since there are so many options in select query, so we will do it in parts so that it will be easy for all of you to follow and practice. So I would suggest you to install a database. So if possible, you can install MS SQL. There is SQL Express Edition available for free. So MS SQL, if you go for other versions like Standard Enterprise, it's a licensed versions. So Postgres is an open source database, which is a free database to use. So you can have any of these databases. So most of the commands works for other databases also. So since I will be predominantly using these databases, if you install these databases, it will be much easier for you to follow and practice. So once again, thank you so much for watching. See you soon in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.